back to our show. My name is Chales Shambry. I belong to the New Horizons Toastmasters Club. If you're looking for a club, we invite you. And today on the show we have Cindy Dauer. She's the Executive Director for Tualatin Valley Creates. Tualatin Valley Creates. Cindy Dauer, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, nice to have you. I'm so excited that you're here. Can't you see the excitement that I have?
Yeah, thank you.
I think we first met at the library, I believe, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was at an event for the Beaverton Chamber.
Okay, great. And that was like a fair of some sort, or?
Yeah, it was for new members. And so I was there and we chatted.
Great. Yeah, I think we were joking about being photogenic or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
I think we were talking about, because you were on TV before here
I
at this set,
have been. Yeah, as part of the History Revealed show.
Gotcha. Well, who is Cindy Dauer?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, just north of Seattle, and then I've been to school in California, where I studied journalism and anthropology at San Francisco State.
Wow.
I moved to Oregon in 2004, and I worked as a reporter out on the Oregon coast. I've bounced around Oregon a little bit. I lived in Corvallis for a while, and now I live in Hillsboro.
Great. So we should switch places, since you have journalism background there, probably.
Possibly. Oh yeah, I was more print journalism. So I've worked at newspapers and weeklies. I published my own magazine for a while, and then most recently I was the editor of the Washington County Arts Guide, which is published by community newspapers.
Great, good. So let's talk about Tualatin Valley Creates, because that's why you're here.
Yeah.
So kind of share with us how it got started, why was it founded, all of that.
Yeah, so Tualatin Valley Creates is all about building community through the arts in Washington County. So we believe that the arts are a powerful tool for bringing people together and, bridging differences. And so Tualatin Valley Creates was actually founded over 20 years ago, and we were founded as Westside Cultural Alliance, but just last year we became Tualatin Valley Creates. And some of the people that helped start the organization include Beaverton Mayor Denny Doyle, who was actually a city councilor for Beaverton at the time, and also Sharon Maroney with Broadway Rose Theater Company has been instrumental in keeping the organization going, and they recognize that Washington County needed a countywide arts advocacy organization, and so here we are.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the mission, because I understand there are 3 parts, or at least three goals, I think.
That's
right?
absolutely right.
Kind of touch on that
So we have 3 primary goals that drive our operations, and the first is to be a countywide arts and culture communication hub. So we recently did a survey, or there was a survey completed, and one of the biggest barriers people said to participating in local arts was a lack of information. So how do you get information about things that are happening in Washington County? We don't have a lot of the same media coverage that they have in Portland. So last fall, actually, Tualatin Valley Creates launched a new arts and culture hub, so we provide all that kind of information about events and news for arts and culture in Washington County. We also, our second goal is to provide support for artists and arts organizations. So we have a variety of offerings, including networking events and professional development workshops, just as a way for people to connect and build their network. And in fact, recently after a networking event, a woman who had attended for the first time, she was an artist, she came up to me and thanked me profusely for hosting these events, because she said it was really powerful for her to connect with other people in the same industry, and it was really inspiring. So always wonderful to get that type of feedback about our work. And our third goal is to engage underserved populations in the arts. So Washington County is one of the most diverse counties in the state.
Really?
That is true. And in fact, 1 in 3 people here is a person of color. And we recognize that the mainstream arts industry doesn't necessarily have that same type of diversity and representation. So as an organization, we're really trying to look at how do we dismantle some of the inequities around access to arts and arts funding.
Right. Can you share with us any stories or any specific example how the organization are helping individuals in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So through a variety of ways, we've helped supported local artists and arts organizations, and I think, getting the word out for people has been huge, because a lot of organizations are all volunteer run, and they don't have a professional marketing staff. So that way we help organizations. But one of the programs we're working on that I'm most excited about is an arts and culture leadership program. And we're looking to develop this, and really, how do we create and inspire and educate the leaders of tomorrow in arts and culture, so that in Washington County for generations to come, we have organizations and events and activities that, again, build community through the arts. And so through this leadership program that we're just starting to develop, we're really looking to engage millennials and communities of color and underrepresented communities, and helping, empower them to secure resources and energize their organizations and create new organizations. Again, all with the idea of building community through the arts.
Great, great. We had talked on the phone about changes, right? Changes. And I think the term that you used was evolution.
Yes.
So kind of share that, at least walk us through what that really means.
Yeah, so the organization has changed and grown a lot just in the last few years. So when I started, our budget was $15,000 a year, and we had 25 staff hours a month. So we were really just barely able to sort of maintain our operations. But we were able to sit down with Washington County government and the Regional Arts and Culture Council and really look at where are there gaps in arts services and arts infrastructure across the county, and that's where our 3 goals came from, actually, from those talks. And so through that, we were able to secure more funding for the organization, and so this year our budget will be right around $70,000 a year, about which 60% comes from Washington County government.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Cindy, wrapping up here,
Yes.
I appreciate you. How do we stay in contact with you?
Yes, and so I mentioned our online communication hub, and that is at tvcreates.org. So we have a countywide calendar of arts and culture events and all kinds of news and updates found there. We're also, of course, online through social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and finally we offer newsletters. So we have a weekly arts and culture event email, as well as a monthly creative industry newsletter.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you heard Cindy's life, how she is helping others in the community have a voice for artistic value. We want to thank her for coming to the show. We want to thank you for watching the show. This is Chales Shambry again. Have an awesome, awesome day.
Hi, I'm Kelly Jakes, and I am the author of the book, Martinis in Menopause: Strategies, Science, and Sips that Empower Women to Beat the Hormone Groan. I wrote this book to better understand what myself and 58 million of us a day are going through as our bodies transition from the reproductive zone to the period-free zone, which I call the zone of freedom. And this can take 2 to 10 years for a woman. And so many bodily systems are affected during this time. So in the book, I talk about the top 10 symptoms that women deal with, and I talk about the science of why it happens, which is very empowering to understand why something is going on in your body. And then finally, I give you strategies to live your best self with whatever the symptom is that you're dealing with. You may see yourself in this book if you're one of the women who suffer from brain fog. That's when we have those episodes when we, for the life of us, can't remember what we walked into the room to do, or what we're supposed to be doing with this Word document on the computer, or which kid we're supposed to be picking up when tonight after work. They're brain fog, and it's very real. Or maybe you suffer from hot flashes, where, you are so hot you just want to strip your clothes off no matter where you are, at work, in the store, in your car, and you have sweat running down every crack and cranny of your body. What are you going to do about that? Or maybe you're a woman who gets so irritated so fast that you can go from 0 to 60 and become a complete witch and take everyone down around you emotionally. I talk about these symptoms and more in the book. And why the martini? I get asked that all the time. Well, besides the fact that I do enjoy a martini now and then, really, the martini is a metaphor for hanging around with people who love you, people who've got your back, people who are your tribe. It doesn't matter what you're drinking, and each chapter has a martini and a mocktini recipe. What matters is, do you have a community of people around you, women, who care about you and love you? Because that's who your tribe is, and that's what it means to be having a martini. I want to end today with one simple story. There's so many in the book, but I was raised in a very conservative Christian home, and where we talked about the word joy a lot. In my home, that meant Jesus first, others next, and yourself last. Yourself last? I think that's the most detrimental message we could send to a woman. Because during this time of life, one thing I know that is so very important is self-care. Putting yourself first and taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So self-care may be planning what you're going to eat this week so you don't end up eating food that makes you feel gross and bloated and awful. Self-care means carving out that time in your week where you can get to the gym or get outside and get your sexy sweat on, because we've got to exercise during this time of life. Or maybe self-care for you means putting up very clear emotional boundaries so that you are not hanging around with those people who bring you down, who are negative all the time and have nothing good to say. There's so many things we can do and simple strategies we can employ to take care of ourselves. Because women, when we take care of ourselves, then we can better take care of those we love and the world that we live in. I speak all around the country, and women were always saying to me, Kelly, what can I do to feel better and to live better during this transitional time of my life? Which is why I wrote the book, to empower women. If you want to know more, you can go to my website at kellyjakes.com, KELLIJAECKS. There's more information there about the book. So until next time, take care of yourselves and go Menno.
Speak in public? I'd rather be burned at the stake. At least that's how I used to feel, until Toastmasters. I went online and found a club that met every week at lunchtime, and they were close to my office, so it worked out great. I was really scared when I started, but no one pressured me to speak or pushed me to do anything I wasn't ready for. I felt safe, and I realized it was okay to be nervous and to make mistakes, because these people were going to support and encourage me no matter what. And now, well, let's just say things have changed. I speak in front of large groups, lead all-day seminars, and conduct presentations to top executives. Toastmasters changed my life.
There are over 100 Toastmasters clubs meeting all around the Portland, Vancouver area, near your office, home, or even your school. We meet on all days of the week, morning, noon, and night. Our clubs couldn't be more convenient or affordable at under $10 a month. Visit a couple locations and find the one that's just right for you. All the information you need is at Toastmasters.org.
Hi, welcome back. My name is Bill Maher. I'm a member of the New Horizons Toastmasters Club in Tualatin, Oregon. It's a pleasure to be here again this evening, and as usual, I have a very special guest from our club. This evening I want us to talk a little bit with Mary Canton. Mary, welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
It is so good to have you here. We have something in common that I want you to talk about a little bit. I am not a native Oregonian. I have come all the way from the Philadelphia area, and you also are not a native Oregonian. Where did you come from, and how did you find your way to Oregon?
Well, I am from Maryland, and I went to school in Towson, which is in Baltimore. And I went to school to be a teacher. That's another thing we have in common. However, I wasn't ready to teach yet, so I ended up getting a temporary job with a company in Baltimore. They ended up wanting me to move from Baltimore to Portland. And at that time, I had just graduated college. I had nothing really holding me down, so to speak. So ended up coming out here to Oregon.
So you were at a point in your life where you could say, yes, let's take that chance. Let's go 3,000 miles away and see what life could be like on the left coast.
Exactly, with my microwave and my bike.
Wow. You didn't ride your bike all the way.
No, definitely not.
Okay. So you found yourself here in Oregon. You've been here for, well, we've been here about 20 years or so.
Yeah.
What has been the most unusual part for you living in Oregon? Anything unusual about the culture or the area that you thought was unique?
Not anything totally out of the ordinary. I would say it's so green. It's amazing how much life and plants there are in Oregon. We didn't, cut our lawn in the wintertime because the lawn was gray, brown grass. Whereas in Oregon during the winter, you can hear the mowers because the grass is always growing in Oregon.
That's true. We lived for a while in Southern California. Always teased my dad, who was living outside of Philadelphia at the time, that it was February, but I had to cut the grass. And that's true most times here in Oregon. We do have our seasons, which is very nice. Having grown up on the East Coast, you are familiar with seasons. It's really nice to be in a place where that is a regular part of our experience every year. One of the things that you've done since you've come here to Oregon is you've found yourself being involved in this club called Toastmasters. Tell us about how you got started in Toastmasters.
I got started in Toastmasters about 4 years ago when I had just went into a career transition. And I was looking for a club that I could belong to work on my leadership and communication skills. Because at that time, I'd gone through a pretty difficult period and my confidence was shattered. I wasn't able to effectively communicate based on the situations that I'd been through. So by joining Toastmasters, I found a very integrative club that was very much about inclusion. And I learned so much about how to give feedback in a constructive, positive way. So I would say that, getting into Toastmasters really helped to put me back on track in regards to leadership and communication.
Interesting that you say that. A lot of times people are looking for Toastmasters purely for the speaking part of it. And they don't quite understand that leadership is also part of what Toastmasters has to offer. Another thing you said that is a little bit different from my experience was the way to give evaluations and to give feedback. Occasionally I found it challenging to receive the feedback and to receive the evaluations for speeches that I had done because I thought I did pretty good. Apparently there's room for improvement. Which was more helpful for you as you were getting reoriented during your transition? Was it the ability to give the feedback or to receive the feedback?
Honestly, I would say both. Because even when I would go to Toastmasters, maybe I didn't have a role, but seeing other people providing feedback to one another in a positive, helpful way taught me so much, not only about how to give feedback, but also to receive it. Because that created a culture of inclusivity, and people were really building each other up. It wasn't, you did a great job, but it was more of, you did a great job, and here's how I think you can do better. And I think those messages to people really help them understand what they did well as make improvements for the future. And I think by getting that message, you're more likely to improve.
I agree with you, and it's good that you pointed that out. We oftentimes forget or don't quite understand what we do well and where our strengths are. Toastmasters really does help point that out. It also helps to point out how to nuance sometimes our challenging parts, the areas that we have growth that are difficult for growth. Was New Horizons the first club that you tried when you tried Toastmasters?
Yes. New Horizons was the first club that I had been to, and it was interesting because some people will go to club after club after club trying to find the right fit for them. With New Horizons, I felt I was immediately welcomed into the club. I was ready to set my goals, and I had lots of opportunities to have mentors with me, to partner with me, so that we could work together to figure out what I needed to grow and build on.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. I agree with you in many ways. I was one of those people who tried probably 5 or 6 clubs before I found New Horizons, and it was purely by accident that, I suppose it's an accident. I went to one club, and the woman that I met there knew of New Horizons, and that's how I found out about New Horizons. I do remember when you got involved in the club, it wasn't too long after you had joined the club that you started leadership role, and you were a vice president of education, and you made it a point to sit down with the different members of the club to say, okay, what are your goals? What are your plans? I was really impressed by that, but that's something that you do, it sounds like, in your own life. Do you still do that? Is it getting easier? How did Toastmasters fit into that part of how you handle yourself?
Well, one-on-one connections with people are helpful to start building that rapport, understanding what their desires are, understanding where they want to improve, and then as a mentor coming in and helping maybe shine some light on other areas that they could benefit from as well. I think I had some of that going into Toastmasters, but Toastmasters was an opportunity to continue that growth in myself even more.
Mm-hmm. I remember another dynamic to your involvement in Toastmasters when you had finished your first year as Vice President of Education. Mm-hmm. Wonderful job doing that. We were hoping that you could be our president. But you decided, you were given the opportunity to work more at the district level and help clubs around in the area. Tell us about that experience. Did you find some similarities among clubs? What did you find most clubs were able to do well or not do well? What did you find out about Toastmasters in the area?
Right. So when I decided to be an area director rather than the president, I kind of went back and did my homework that you did in the beginning. You went to a few different clubs and really wanted to understand Toastmasters and find the right fit, whereas I found the right fit, but I wanted to understand more about Toastmasters. So I went out to be an area director because I get to work with different clubs. And that way I got to see Toastmasters in action with several different clubs. And I felt my role there was to empower the officers within those clubs to meet the goals and to help members thrive. And that piece of leadership for me was exciting to see the growth within the club. Also to understand any of the struggles that they might be having in retention or in getting members to sign up for roles. We could work together to improve that connection and community within the club. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed that experience through the positive results that we saw. I was lucky in the fact that most of the clubs that I was supporting were very strong. Mm-hmm. So I actually got to learn a lot from those clubs as well.
I can imagine. And you're no longer at that level as a district representative, but yet you're taking the experiences that you've had mm-hmm. and you're applying them in new ways. I understand that you are overseeing a group called Future Stars, and you are also part of a club that just recently got chartered called Wagon Tongues.
Yes.
What are those clubs like? What are you bringing to those clubs?
Future Stars is a different model of a Toastmaster club. It's a gavel club mm-hmm. where there are young adults that are also working on their leadership and communication skills. These guys are from the middle school and high school level, and it's amazing to see the youth in Oregon, in Portland, stepping up to really hone their leadership and communication skills. Every single person that I've invited to the club are amazed by their abilities. And I think it's so important, especially now, for youth to be able to have their voice heard and to also help one another. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoy Future Stars and the growth that I'm seeing within the youth leadership of today. The other club that I work with is Wagon Tongues. It's a club in Oregon City that just chartered, so I'm a mentor for that club, helping them get their feet settled into the ground and try to grow into a big, strong club where, again, we have that same culture.
It's interesting seeing the different cultures and the different makeups and the different nuances of different clubs in the area. Real quickly, last question. Do you have any insight as to what might be some secret characteristics of success for a club?
I would say for a successful club is you have your officers, a very strong leadership team that can work with each other to make the club a place where members want to be. So it's that communication between the mentors and the members and the officers. Mentors was a Freudian slip, and I think that's also very important because lots of times people might be told, you need to go to Toastmasters, you need to learn how to communicate better. But then once you get there, you don't know what you truly need to work on. So again, and I think that was part of the reason why, for me, New Horizons was such a great club, is I had those mentors working with me, knowing what I needed to work on and fulfilling the goals I set for myself.
That is wonderful. That is good to know. Well, thank you so much for your time. Our time has come to an end. We really appreciate you joining.
Yeah, thank you for having
and
me.
your insights to Toastmasters.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you got some more insights to Toastmasters, what a Toastmaster club can do for an individual, and what Toastmasters as an organization, especially in District 7 here in the Oregon and Southwest Washington area, can do for groups of people. I invite you to join me to join Toastmasters. Do a web search for toastmastersinternational.org. We hope to see you. If you're in Tualatin on a Saturday morning, stop by to New Horizons Toastmasters. Thank you very much for joining us.